going to be a lot of nostalgia in here. As sad as this title, may look, I just feel like back in the day, if I'm thinking what's going to be in this list, man, the thumbnail itself with the Thundercat. Hey, appreciate you guys coming over. We are back on the Grunge channel. We got the day Saturday morning cartoons died. Now, the other day I did a video talking about, what was it? Y'all know that one, School of Rock or something like that. But we're going to check this out. I'll leave the link to their channel in the description so you guys can check out more videos yourselves. We ain't going to waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
You never had to fear when Underdog was here, so who's to blame for his and his cartoon colleagues' demise? Was it kids losing interest or FCC regulation? The first cartoon to air on a Saturday morning was Crusader Rabbit, 4-minute-long shorts that spoofed movie serials. They were co-created by Jay Ward, who would become more famous for his later creation, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Crusader Rabbit, which debuted in 1950, was the first real attempt to create animation for television. Prior to that, animated shorts were the exclusive fodder of movie theaters. But while Crusader Rabbit was the first, the series didn't kick off the phenomenon. The true catalyst came when William Hanna and Joseph Barbera were fired from MGM's animation department in 1957. They subsequently founded their own animation studio, where they innovated several limited animation techniques that saved the studio time and money. This allowed them to produce numerous weekly half-hour cartoon shows like The Flintstones, The Jetsons, and others. These techniques included reducing the amount of motion occurring on screen and recycling backgrounds. As these shows became more abundant, they were increasingly seen as TV for children, so they got moved into the time slot when children were most likely to be watching TV, Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. until noon. By 1966, all three of the major networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, were dedicating a block of time on Saturday mornings to animated children's programming. The idea of animated shows like The Flintstones as primetime viewing for the whole family faded, and cartoons became thought of as Saturday stuff for kids.
Right. I like kids' shows. They're very innocent, wholesome quality.
The reasons for the end of the traditional Saturday morning cartoon block are numerous. They have their roots in parental advocacy groups, who were protesting the amount of time kids spent watching TV by the late 60s. These groups were concerned about cartoon depictions of violence and stereotypes, as well as the commercialism that has always been a part of TV.
And look at us now. Look where we are now. They talking about violence and stuff. Man, compared to now, my goodness.
Cartoons. Kids, it turns out, had a difficult time distinguishing the shows they were watching from the ads that ran during them. Despite attempts to balance advertising with educational and social content like Schoolhouse Rock, the new wave of cartoons that hit the air following the success of the Smurfs were extremely commercial and all tied to popular toy lines. These included shows like G.I. Joe, He-Man, and Care Bears. In 1990, the FCC passed the Children's Television Act, which prescribed a minimum number of hours of educational content for children per week for broadcast networks. They strengthened these mandates in 1996 with the Children's Programming Report, which added even more guidelines for what could be aired in those once precious Saturday morning hours. Additional factors such as cable television, the increased popularity of the internet, VCRs, and after-school animated programming blocks all contributed to the downfall of Saturday morning cartoons. But the earliest blow was the government telling networks they needed fewer shows with talking animals and more with people talking about animals. September 12, 1992 is considered the day Saturday morning cartoons died. This was when NBC first stopped airing animated shows during the traditional cartoon programming block. As it turns out, NBC had already considered dumping its cartoon block in the early 1980s. They felt that kids' rapidly fluctuating attention and interests made it difficult to land a solid, predictable hit. But then the Smurfs came out in 1981. It became a monster success for the network, giving the cartoon block a reprieve for another decade. But once the Smurfs ended and a new cohort of kids were watching Nickelodeon, Nickelodeon instead of NBC, the network finally pulled the trigger and replaced their children's programming block with live-action programming for adults. The one remaining concession was a block of shows aimed at younger teens, inspired by the hit teen sitcom Saved by the Bell. This plan did not make most anti-cartoon advocacy groups happy either. Peggy Charon, the president of Action for Children's Television, told the Los Angeles Times, "NBC is not taking away cartoons, which are mostly dumb anyway, and replacing them with meaningful, terrific programs for kids, but instead putting in their place yet another soft information show for adults."
That would be illogical.
Beginning in 1992, the Teen NBC, or TNBC, lineup lasted for a decade, adding and subtracting new short-lived teen dramas like Just Deal and Skate in the early years of the 21st century. By 2002, however, ratings had dropped significantly, and NBC learned that their programming for younger viewers was not reaching its intended audience. It turns out that the median age of viewers for TNBC was almost 42 years old. To try to fix this, and because there were still federal standards for minimum hours allotted for children's educational programming, NBC outsourced their Saturday morning lineup to Discovery Kids. The new Discovery Kids on NBC programming block was a 3-hour chunk of shows with titles like Prehistoric Planet, Croc Files, and Scout Safari. This lineup would only last a few years itself, ending in 2006, but the format of infotainment TV that technically meets the FCC standards has remained the formula for NBC Saturday mornings ever since. The branding has undergone many changes, from Cubo on NBC to NBC Kids to The More You Know, which began in 2016 and is still ongoing as of late 2023. This all may sound less exciting than a band of globe-trotting singing chipmunks, but at least these shows won't make kids want to buy merch. While NBC was the first to abandon animated children's programming on Saturday mornings, eventually all the other networks would follow suit. The next network...
Before I forget, what was y'all favorite to watch growing up? Like, or that you would put on for your kids or just whatever? Because I know a lot of y'all probably got kids my age. So, yeah. Or if you're around my age, because I used to love watching Thundercats, He-Man. I'm just trying to think about things that were on I can remember. It's a lot.
To drop cartoons was CBS, who, largely prompted by the increased FCC strictures of 1996, revamped their Saturday morning lineup as Think CBS Kids in 1997. Prior to that, CBS had been home to hit animated series like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Garfield and Friends, and The Muppet Babies. Now, however, kids getting up to watch TV with a bowl of their favorite cereal would be treated to the Sports Illustrated for Kids show, the new Ghost Rider Mysteries, and a kids' version of Wheel of Fortune called Wheel 2000. The Think CBS Kids lineup would prove to be a ratings disaster, however, and the branding would be abandoned by 1998. Retitled as CBS Kids Show, the network's Saturday morning block would actually return to animated programming for several years through partnerships with the Canadian animation studio Nelvana, Nickelodeon's Nick Jr., and Deke Entertainment's Secret Saturday Morning Slumber Party. Animation was dropped again in 2013 in favor of a block of educational programming originally called CBS Dream Team, which was renamed CBS Weekend in 2023. This lineup features such shows as Lucky Dog, Recipe Rehab, Hope in the Wild, and Tales of Valor. Of the 3 original major networks, ABC held onto its Saturday morning cartoon block the longest, thanks in no small part to its affiliation with Disney. In 1997, ABC launched a revamped children's programming lineup called One Saturday Morning, which aired several different Disney-produced animated shows, including Recess and Pepper Ann. In 2001, the block was expanded and renamed ABC Kids. This new lineup included cartoons like Lilo and Stitch, the series, but also included live-action material such as NBA Inside Side Stuff and Power Rangers. On top of all that, it aired reruns of live-action Disney shows like Even Stevens and Lizzie McGuire. By the end of ABC Kids' reign as the Saturday morning programming block on ABC, the time slot was mostly filled with reruns of live-action Disney sitcoms like Hannah Montana and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. This was all scrapped in 2011 in favor of a new weekend educational package put together by Hearst Media, the same company that makes CBS Weekend and NBC's The More You Know. Like the other Hearst syndication packages, this new lineup, called Weekend Adventure, is designed to meet FCC educational standards. As a result, it features a lot of animal shows. You can settle in on a Saturday morning and watch, for example, Wildlife Nation with Jeff Corwin. Fox Kids, the Saturday morning programming block for the Fox network, launched in 1990 as Fox Children's Network. This was a result of a dispute between Disney and Fox over the rights to air the Disney afternoon programming block. Fox Kids not only ran its own original programming, like Bobby's World, but it also had shows produced by other studios, including Batman, the animated series, X-Men, the animated series, and The Tick. While the Fox Kids schedule originally took up 3 hours on Saturdays and a half hour each weekday, as the programming block became increasingly popular, it ballooned to 4 hours on Saturdays and 3 hours on weekdays. By the mid-90s, Fox Kids programming was the most popular on the network.
Nice work, Tick!
Well, thank you, Arthur. The key is going against the grain.
Despite being the highest-rated block of children's television for much of the 90s, Fox Kids lost ground to ABC's Disney-based programming in 1997. And things only got worse when Pokémon moved to Kids WB in 1999. By 2001, Fox Kids was no longer the powerhouse it once was. The time slot was bought by 4Kids Entertainment, which aired its own animated programming on Saturday mornings. Fox got out of the children's programming business altogether in 2008 and filled the time slot with infomercials and the syndicated educational programming block Exploration Station. Though it launched as a 2-hour block in 2014, in 2016 it increased to 3 hours, with shows like Exploration Awesome Planet, Exploration DIY Sci, and an animal show called Second Chance Pets. The last network standing was the CW, which had begun airing children's programming on Saturday mornings in 1995 as Kids WB, before merging to form CW the following decade. Kids WB aired several extremely popular series, including some brought over from Fox Kids, like Animaniacs, Batman, the animated series, and Pokémon. The block got even more popular when it introduced various anime series in 1999. It survived a merger with CW in 2006, even though it dropped its weekday morning and afternoon time slots. In 2008, Kids WB was replaced by the CW4Kids, which, as the name probably gives away, was made up of shows produced by 4Kids. These included The Batman, the 2003 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Yu-Gi-Oh! The block was renamed Toonzai in 2010 and then fully replaced by the Saban-run programming block Vortex.
Go away! We're having a good time until you shut up!
Vortex was the last gasp of the Saturday morning cartoon. From 2012 to 2014, it aired such titles as Justice League Unlimited, Dragon Ball Z, Digimon, and Transformers Prime. But on September 27, 2014, the process begun by NBC all those years ago was completed. Vortex was replaced by One Magnificent Morning, a block of live-action educational content produced by, you guessed it, Hearst Media. One Magnificent Morning offers you yet more animal-based content, such as Jack Hanna's Into the Wild, Pet Vet Dream Team, and Tales of Valor, which also airs on CBS on Saturday. Despite the fact that the closure of Vortex in 2014 marked the end of traditional animated programming blocks on Saturday mornings, it's pretty doubtful that a lot of modern kids even noticed. There is no shortage of cable channels like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon that air cartoons all over the place. And of course, streaming services like Netflix and Hulu mean that kids can pretty much watch any cartoon they want, whenever they want, and as often as they want, as long as the network's parent company doesn't drop it. As for the children of the 70s, 80s, and 90s who grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, it's not like they're missing much either. They too can watch the exact cartoons they watched as kids, either in the original format, offered archivally on streaming services, or through the numerous remakes of hit nostalgia properties like He-Man, Transformers, and Thundercats. While it might be sad to think about a lost tradition, it turns out cartoons are doing just fine.
You know what? I forgot about. I think Inspector Gadget was in the top 3 for me because I used to love Inspector Gadget because he reminded me of MacGyver. Nostalgia. That's when you would watch TV and you would go play outside. Now everybody just on the phone. Just on the phone. Hey, appreciate y'all coming over. Shout out to the Grunge channel for the video, man. If you guys enjoy, go ahead, like, share, comment, and subscribe, man. Peace out.